Joining us live is the Assistant Immigration Minister Matt Thistlethwaite. Matt, good to see you as always. So imagine how much better the budget would be if it wasn't for the $315 billion of spending.
Well, Pete, we're doing what good governments do in tight economic circumstances, and that is we're saving more than we're spending. So we're actually doing what a lot of Australian households are doing. We're cutting back and making sure that we're reducing as much debt as possible, and we're running a budget surplus, and that's the right thing to do in economic circumstances such as this. But we're providing support for households and small businesses to get them through these tough times.
Cutting back? Isn't it record spending?
No, we're cutting back in a number of areas. We're certainly cutting back on all the contracts that were being offered to the private sector to run government services. You've seen the changes that we made to the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which will reduce the cost of that over time. But the relief that we're providing for taxpayers has been very much targeted and aimed at ensuring that we're not adding to inflation. And it's been on the advice of Treasury that we've put those policies in place. And inflation has moderated. There's still a long way to go, and we know that. But it's heading in the right direction.
So how much of these numbers that are out today from Treasury, how much of this is not so much down to your government efforts, but that of higher immigration, people paying more taxes?
I think that we've certainly seen increases in incomes, and there's no doubt about that.
So is that misleading?
Well, no, not really. I think that it's on both sides of the budget. You've seen increase in revenue, and we haven't hidden that fact. There's been increases in revenue associated with resources. More people are in work, and that's a good thing. We've got a record level of employment in Australia, over 1 million jobs. That's never been achieved before by any government. We've created 1 million jobs, and that means that more Australians are in employment and paying taxes. Now, that's a good thing. That's what we want to be encouraging in our economy. So increases in revenue, but at the same time, reductions in expenditure in certain areas means that we're running a budget surplus. Isn't that what the Australian people want? They want us to run a budget surplus.
Sure, yeah, but there's too many people.
Sure that we're reducing debt.
And this is in your space, major concerns about too many people coming into the country.
And that's why we're reducing net overseas migration. That's why you've seen the policies such as the caps on international students. That's why we're introducing changes to make sure that we're processing visa applications and rejecting those that don't have merit in a quicker timeframe, so that people can't try and manipulate the system and just stay in Australia for as long as they can. We're making all these changes in the immigration portfolio that are reducing pressure on the population.
All right, let's take a look at Newspoll. It's not great for Anthony Albanese. It's not super great for Peter Dutton either. I mean, he's not increasing support. It feels more and more as though the Greens and the Teals are going to have a stronger say next time around, Matt. If that happens, how chaotic are things going to get?
I think that the polls are reflecting the fact that Australians are feeling the pinch at the moment. Housing mortgage rates have gone up, obviously, and we're seeing inflationary pressure. But what's important is that the government is trying to deliver on the policies that we took to the last election, particularly to reduce the cost of housing. And that's why we've just seen last week the first allocation from the Housing Australia Future Fund that will fund the construction of 13,500 new homes across the country. That's what people want. But they also, younger Australians are all telling me that they want to see Help to Buy instituted.
You can't get parliamentary support, though. So you're going to have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, but look at it from our perspective, Pete. We took that policy to the last election. So we're trying to deliver that. And we think that we've got a mandate to do that. And you've got the Greens and the Liberal Party in an alliance trying to stop that, purely for political means, because the Liberals don't have an alternative.
Is it political,
policy,
though, by rejecting policy that's not good?
Well, when we took it to the last election, we got the approval of the Australian people, and then you're getting in the way and blocking it purely because you don't have an alternate policy that you want to implement. What's the Liberal Party's alternate policy? They don't have one. They're just doing it for pure political means, and that's wrong, because there are a lot of young Australians saying to me, without Help to Buy, I've no hope of buying my first home unless my mum and dad underwrite it. So your situation in the housing market is basically based on your parents' wealth, and that is wrong. That's not the type of society that we want to live in, and that's why Help to Buy is so important.
Okay.
It gives people the opportunity to get into their first home.
All right, let's close out with Peter Dutton. He's got a nuclear plan, or a speech that is going to unveil his nuclear plan. As Cam Redden said earlier, though, it's not going to unveil the costings just yet. Again, speech is in a few hours' time, just getting in ahead of this. Have you got a closing thought here?
I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think that the Liberal Party are just trying to buy time. The problem with the policy, Pete, is that it doesn't come on until the 2040s. We don't have time. We need extra generation capacity now. They're just delaying. They haven't released the cost because it doesn't stack up financially. And you get a gut feeling about policies. My gut feeling is this is never going to happen because the private sector aren't interested in being involved in it because they know that it doesn't stack up. Matt Keane, the former energy minister in New South Wales, said their government had a thorough look at nuclear energy as an energy source, and they said it simply doesn't stack up. And that's at the end of the day why it won't happen.